Hey guys, can you hear me? I hope everyone can hear me and you can see me. So we'll wait for like 2-3 minutes before everyone can join and then we will get started. Okay. So yeah, I'll just wait for like 3-4 minutes and then we'll get started. So yeah, it has been long time and so I welcome everyone to this amazing course and I hope you can like see me and hear me and everything is absolutely fine with you. So आवाज आ रही है अच्छे से? So I hope everything is fine. So guys, welcome to this amazing class and today we are going to discuss a very important topic of environment and ecology and papers of mains. That is what we are going to start discussion with today. Okay, so previous year question paper of mains from 2013 to 16. This is the part 1. All right. So yeah, I'm very good. Thank you very much for everything. So previous year questions of mains 2013 to 16. So that is what we are going to discuss today, and we'll discuss it very quickly, and we'll try to cover. Okay, I'm not audible. And can you hear me? Is the voice clear? Just write Y if you can hear me. So 2013, so write a note on India's green energy corridor to alleviate the problems of conventional energy. So write this in 200 words. Okay, so that is there. What is then you have to basically. So this green energy corridor was in news at that time, and how does the green energy corridor overcome the problems of conventional energy? So these are the sources of it, like PIB had an article, etc. So basically, at that time, if you had to write green energy corridor project for evacuation of renewable energy from the generation points to the load centers by creating interstate transmission. Okay, and it was sanctioned in 2015, and it is being implemented in 8 renewable states. Right. So it was basically 2013. Do you understand? So basically these current affairs, these kind of topics were in news back then. So ऐसा मत सोचना कि यार ये तो किसी ने पढ़ाया ही नहीं है, पता नहीं कैसे पूछ लिया, क्या हो गया, क्या नहीं हुआ, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. ठीक है, तो उसमें बिल्कुल आपको परेशान होने की जरूरत नहीं है. एब्सोल्युटली डोंट वरी अबाउट दीज थिंग्स एट ऑल. Yeah. Yeah, so don't think that these questions will come, will not come. बिल्कुल भी इसमें परेशान मत होना. And this project supposed to be completed by March 2020. And the conventional grid offers like difficulties for absorbing renewable energy. Many renewable energy plants lessen their power like due to lack of a transmission capacity, etc. And under this project, renewable energy management centers, which have advanced forecasting tools, they are being set up. Right, so it will maximize renewable energy generation integration without compromising security, stability of the power system. All right, and this project will ensure optimum utilization of renewable energy. Is it absolutely clear? So it will ensure optimal utilization of renewable energy, and it will help in reducing dependence on conventional energy based on fossil fuels, apart from mitigating greenhouse gases, etc. So it will make your grid smart, etc. So जो black में लिखा है, they are important, but as I told you, it is very easy to like justify these things in retrospect. ठीक है, so retrospect में इसको justify करना काफी easy होता है. So you don't worry about it at all. ठीक है. Now, what do you understand by run of the river hydroelectricity project? How is it different from any other hydroelectricity project? Describe it in 200 words. अब जैसे ये क्वेश्चन है, नाउ दिस इज अ पेरिनियल क्वेश्चन, डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? बिकॉज हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक इन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का काफी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक होता है हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. ऑलराइट. So what do you understand by this run of the river hydroelectricity project? How is it different from any other hydroelectricity project? So let us discuss this. So obviously पहला तो क्वेश्चन ही बहुत सिंपल है. What is the run of the river hydroelectricity project? Difference between run of the river hydroelectricity project, other hydroelectricity projects, etc. So that is what we are going to discuss. All right. So what is hydroelectricity project? What is the difference between these projects and everything under the sun? तो ये हम एक बार इसमें अच्छे से कवर करते हैं सर. तो अब ये जैसे क्वेश्चन आपको अगले साल भी पूछ सकता है, उसके अगले साल भी पूछ सकता है. ओके. सो जस्ट रिमेंबर दिस. So run of the river hydroelectricity project, what it does is it utilizes the natural flow of water. All right. So it basically what it does is it utilizes the natural flow of water and it generate electricity. Obviously, पानी की जो kinetic energy है that will rotate something that will basically get stored in the generator, right? Common sense है ना? So but जो normal hydroelectric power projects होते हैं, they store large quantities of water for generating hydroelectricity with the help of dams. So construction of dams will involve submergence of large areas of land. It will affect the livelihood of many people. It will have huge environmental consequences also. Okay. So it will have huge environmental consequences. All right. So please remember this. And but if you just utilize run of the river hydroelectric project, it has no environmental impact or very less environmental impact, and it does not produce methane or CO2 also because there is no dam. There is no dam, so there is no submergence, decomposition of the organic matter, right? समझ रहे हो ना point? So basically these are some direct differences which you can quote. So you don't need to write a fancy answer, you just need to write the correct answer. ठीक है. अब वो correct answer simple हो सकता है, आपको लगता होगा तो बहुत ही simple सा answer है, ये तो हर कोई लिख के आ जाएगा, मेरे को अलग से मार्क्स कैसे मिलेंगे, मैं अलग क्या करूं, मैं अलग क्या करूं, मैं अलग क्या करूं, आप कुछ अलग नहीं कर सकते. ऑल राइट. So there is nothing different which you can do here. So please remember that fact. It's a very simple fact which I'm trying to convey here. It's not a rocket science or anything which we are discussing here. ठीक है. So there is nothing which you can do alag se. So anyway, so construction usage of a river for producing hydroelectricity for run of the river project is very different from a conventional hydroelectric project. Okay. So now, how important is vulnerability and risk assessment for pre-disaster management? As an administrator, what are the key areas that you would focus on disaster management? So, do you realize that this question was also asked again this year? Do you realize that? I'm pretty sure that many of you realize that point which I'm trying to convey. कि this similar kind of a question, not the same question, मैं ही नहीं बोल रहा कि बिल्कुल डिट्टो ये सेम का सेम क्वेश्चन आ गया था, तो वो तो स्टूपिडिटी हो जाएगी. बट quite a similar type of question was asked, right? समझ रहे हो सर? So significance of vulnerability risk assessment for pre-disaster management. Mention the key areas of focus in disaster management from planning to response and rehabilitation, etc. So a disaster basically occurs when hazards and vulnerability meet. All right. So disaster occurs when hazard and vulnerability they meet. All right. से तो मैंने आपको बता रखा है 50,000 बार पहले भी. जैसे earthquake can be a hazard, tsunami can be a hazard, fire can be a hazard, volcanic eruption can be a hazard, right? And पूरा अच्छे से रटाया था मैंने आपको. I don't know if you remember it or not. Already भूल चुके हो आप लोग. But yeah, we have discussed this in like great detail. Okay. So मैं काफी अच्छे से डिटेल में पढ़ा था. Everything under the sun we had discussed, if you remember it. Okay. So vulnerability is the extent to which an area is prone to a disaster. Hazard is just a dangerous condition. It depends on the coping capability of the community. All right. I told you this line also, right? When it goes beyond the coping capability of the community, so then it becomes a disaster. So basically, disaster management should be considered in three phases: pre-disaster management, management during a disaster, post-disaster management, etc. Right. So there is pre-disaster management. All right. Then there is management during a disaster. Okay. Then there is a post-disaster management, etc. तो सर ये तो क्लियर हो गया कि ये 3 है। ओके, सो प्लीज रिमेंबर दैट ये दोनों साथ में नहीं हो सकते। ओके, या सो पहले अपने को सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट होता है प्री डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट। इज इट क्लियर? इफ यू कैन डू प्री डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, यू रियलाइज दैट दिस विल बिकम ऑलमोस्ट यूजलेस। लेट अस से सुन, आपके जैसे ओडिशा में होता है आजकल, राइट? ओडिशा में क्या होता है कि डिजास्टर आता है, पता है भाई साइक्लोन आने वाला है, फलाना फलाना दिन स्ट्राइक होगा, पूरा इवैक्यूएशन करवा देते हैं, राइट? पूरा इवैक्यूएशन करवा देते हैं, एक भी इंसान की डेथ नहीं होती, थोड़ा बहुत प्रॉपर्टी को लॉस होता है। So there is technically you don't need anything, right? There is no human being whose life was lost. There is no disaster as such, right? So आप पॉइंट समझ रहे हो ना मेरा? तो ज्यादातर उसमें ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत काइंड को डैमेज होता होगा, थोड़ी प्रॉपर्टी को डैमेज होता होगा, बट लेट अस से इफ योर प्री डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट इज बैड, देन देयर विल बी अ फुल ब्लोन डिजास्टर, और आप फिर अगले 50 साल तक सिर्फ पोस्ट डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट करते रहोगे। डू यू रियलाइज दैट? फॉर एग्जाम्पल दो सुनामी विक्टिम्स विच आर अफेक्टेड इन 2001, दे आर स्टिल रोमिंग, राइट? दे आर, ऐसा थोड़ी है कि वो बिल्कुल रिहेबिलिटेट हो चुके हैं और लाइफ बिल्कुल सेटल्ड है और चिल है। तो 2004 में सुनामी आई थी, सॉरी, सो जो 2004 में जो सुनामी आई थी, स्लिप ऑफ टंग था। सो देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली यूजलेस, राइट? Thinking that in 15 years their life is settled, so that is not at all the case, right? 15 साल से I am pretty sure Tamil Nadu government and other governments are still, for example, let us say एक भोपाल गैस ट्रेजेडी हुई थी, डू रिमेम्बर? अर्ली 1980s में। So 1984 में, if you remember, there was a Bhopal gas tragedy, and that also led to a huge death, right? Like thousands of people died in 1984. So अभी तक वो चल रहा है केस, इजंट इट? अभी तक केस चल रहा है ना, ऐसा थोड़ी है कि पोस्ट डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट खत्म हो गया। पीपल आर स्टिल इन्वॉल्व, पीपल आर स्टिल फाइटिंग फॉर things, and people are still fighting for their rights, and it is absolutely messed up. So pre-disaster management consists of preparedness mitigation measures based on risk assessment of a disaster, and preparedness includes formulation of viable emergency plans, development of warning systems, maintenance of inventories, training of personnel, etc. ठीक है? तो बेसिकली ये है कि भाई आने दो डिजास्टर को, हम देख लेंगे टाइप्स। सो यू नीड टू हैव वेरी प्रॉपर वार्निंग सिस्टम, अलार्म सिस्टम, इन्वेंट्री, ट्रेनिंग ऑफ पर्सनल, viable emergency plans, etc. Now it can also embrace search and rescue measures, evacuation plan for areas which can be at a risk from a recurring disaster. So this is like very very important, please remember this. Okay, so always remember that there are two things. देखो, दो तरीके से डिजास्टर को कम किया जा सकता है, दो दो मेजर तरीकों से। एक तो ये कि आप अर्थक्वेक की इंटेंसिटी फील नहीं हो, राइट? यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो यू कैन डिटेक्ट इट अर्ली, यू कैन आस्क इवैक्यूएशन हो जाए, तो अगर आ भी गया तो कुछ उखाड़ नहीं पाएगा, राइट? सेकंड इज दैट यू मेक बेटर बिल्डिंग्स, राइट? You remove the slum area, you make it better housing to poor, you remove them from vulnerability, you give them solid structure, right? समझ रहे हो? So even if earthquake strikes, then vulnerability gets reduced. So either you can increase the warnings and preparedness, etc., or you can decrease the vulnerability. समझ गए? It can apply to tsunami also, volcanic eruption also. Everything can be done. Okay. So that is how you can do pre-disaster management. Right. So for example, you can completely avoid construction in earthquake-prone areas, or you can use wood to construct it. Right. You can do water management in drought-prone areas. You can move people away from flood-prone areas. An awareness campaign should be carried out to make people aware of the areas in which they are living, of how prone it is to disaster. Measures need to be taken before, during, after a disaster. All these are like very, 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 very important points. All right. So, yeah. Now, how to manage during a disaster. So, this is also very, very important. So, during a disaster, emergency response measure should be there, right? I have told you, do you remember? Immediately rescue should start. Immediately rescue and relief should start. जैसे तुरंत रेस्क्यू का मतलब होता है बचाव कार्य। जैसे मान लो आपको पता चला आधे घंटे पहले सुनामी आ गई, तुरंत रेस्क्यू चालू हो जाना चाहिए, समझ रहे हो ना? सबसे नंबर वन चीज होनी चाहिए रेस्क्यू, क्योंकि अभी भी लोग मरे नहीं होंगे, राइट? कुछ लोग मलबे के नीचे होंगे, कुछ पानी में होंगे, कुछ प्यासे होंगे, कुछ लोगों को दवाई चाहिए होगी, राइट? समझ रहे हो? किसी को डायरिया हो रहा होगा, मर जाएगा 12 घंटे के बाद अगर उसको ओआरएस नहीं मिला तो। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो यू नीड टू प्रोवाइड रेस्क्यू एंड रिलीफ इमीडिएट. किसी को ठंड लग रही होगी, राइट, उसको तुरंत एक, अगर आप एक कंबल उड़ा दोगे, उसको साफ कर दोगे, सूखा कर दोगे, तो ही विल सर्वाइव. यू अंडरस्टैंड? So if disaster strikes, then you can't think of long term and you can't think of anything in the past. You have to immediately save thousands of people's life, right? Immediate concern is to save the life, all right, and meet their basic needs. For example, they will need rice, they will need wheat, right? They will need basic food, basic mineral, bottled water, because they can't drink normal water. It leads to diseases. Disaster के time पे you should not ever drink a normal water, all right? It will 100% be contaminated. So this is just a tip from my end. Always wait for some good water. You can stay like, because once if you have diarrhea, तो सारा पानी निकल जाएगा आपकी बॉडी से, समझ रहे हो? For example, let us say you are stuck in an ocean. So a lot of people say ocean is full of water. Why can't we drink water? But if you drink the water, it will actually suck out more water from your body, and you will go mad. Okay, so never drink that. So contaminated water is not something which you have to do. Yes, you can boil it and drink it, but that's a different issue altogether. So primary goal here is to save lives, protect property, environment, meet the basic needs of humans, other living beings after disaster. Immediate focus is always on search, rescue, relief, right? Immediate focus. Then afterwards you can do rehabilitation, reintegration, reconstruction. Okay. So they act as an opportunity to build back better, integrate disaster risk reduction into development measure, and make communities very much resilient to disaster. All right. Now let us discuss about what are the consequences. Okay, so this is very, very important. So what are the consequences of illegal mining, and discuss the environment and forest ministry's concept of go and no go zones for coal mining. All right. So ये simple सा था, उस टाइम पे काफी चलता था. So what can be the consequence of illegal mining? ऐसा थोड़ी कि 5 साल के बाद consequences illegal mining के change हो गए. ऐसा हो गया क्या कि 2013 में तो consequence अलग होते थे illegal mining के और अब change हो गए? ऐसा तो नहीं है. तब भी ये ओवर एक्सप्लॉइटेशन होता था रिसोर्सेज का, अब भी यही होता है, राइट? Obviously government lose a huge amount of money, right? Let's say you take out sand, you take out coal, you take out gold, so everything is very important to government, right? Illegal mining never follows a scientific study. ऐसा थोड़ी कोई कमिटी बैठेगी illegal mining करने के लिए, right? So it can lead to huge environmental disaster, right? And because they don't need to take care of their discharges, won't it lead to like huge uh, disaster, absolute chaos? Yes, it will. So it has no scientific basis. It can cause environmental disaster like earthquakes, landslides, floods. It can also cause huge pollution of air, water, land. It can cause health problems like respiratory diseases. It can add to greenhouse gases, climate change, illegal trade, black money, imbalance in international trade. All these are like huge consequences of this illegal mining. Okay. Now there are go area, no go area. That is not important. to पढ़ लेना. Now enumerate the national water policy of India. Direct question आ रहा है. Do you understand? So this alone is like very, very important. So taking river Ganga as an example, discuss the strategy which may be adopted for river water pollution control and management. What are the legal provisions for the management and handling of hazardous waste in India? So you have to give a brief on national water policy of India. What are the strategies for river pollution control and management? And list out the legal provisions for managing handling disaster waste. So these are the sources. So उस टाइम पे आई थी, समझ रहे हो क्या पॉइंट? तो उस टाइम पे नेशनल वाटर पॉलिसी 2012 was going on, and that is why it is an economic good. It has to like emphasis on national water framework law. Ecological needs of the river should be determined. Adaptation strategy should be there because there is climate change going on. Okay, a system to evolve benchmark should be there for efficient use of water. जैसे efficient use of electricity के लिए benchmark होते हैं, right? 4 स्टार, 5 स्टार, 3 स्टार. 5 स्टार एसी का मतलब है कि बढ़िया एफिशिएंटली यूज करेगा इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, बिजली कम यूज करेगा. तो वैसे वाटर के लिए भी होना चाहिए. सेटिंग अप अ वाटर रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी, वाटर यूजर्स एसोसिएशन, removal of the large disparity in stipulations for water supply, etc. Then water resources project service should be managed with community participation. Adequate grant should be given to the states. Okay. Writing point wise answer is better. That is the only way to write any answer. Okay. इसके अलावा लिखोगे कैसे? पैराग्राफ तो बहुत ही स्टूपिड तरीका होता है. डोंट राइट इन पैराग्राफ. नाउ स्ट्रेटजी फॉर रिवर पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल एंड मैनेजमेंट. सो यू सी रिवर गंगा इज नॉट फ्लोइंग इन यूपी ओनली, राइट? आप समझ रहे हो? उत्तराखंड हो गया, बिहार हो गया, वेस्ट बंगाल हो गया, मतलब इट्स नॉट रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू वन. सो मोस्ट ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम इन रिवर is the coordination of the states, right? Whether it is Krishna, Kaveri, Narmada, Godavari, all these rivers are not restricted to one, right? महानदी कोई भी रिवर उठा लो आप, ज्यादातर जो बड़ी रिवर होती है इंडिया की, दे ऑलवेज फ्लो. सो लेट अस से अगर यूपी ने साफ कर दिया, बिहार ने नहीं किया, या बिहार ने कर दिया, यूपी ने नहीं किया, या यूपी ने कर दिया, उत्तराखंड ने नहीं किया, so it basically all means the same thing, right? So it will keep on coming back to the downstream states. So national plan and authority to implement the plan at the national, state and district level should be formed. Then Ganga Action Plan was launched in 1985. Can you imagine? It has been 34 years since this was launched. The National Council for Rejuvenation, Protection, Management of River Ganga was formed. Okay, and it has 5-tier structure at national, state, district level, etc. Then you have Namami Ganga program, so that is also envisaged under the plan. So this has several projects. So this program has several projects. Okay, to maintain the ecological flow. Like you have real-time water quality monitoring station, then you have sewage infrastructure, like to ghats and crematorium development, riverfront, river surface, institutional biodiversity conservation, afforestation, rural sanitation, public participation, etc. Okay, so can you see this? So this program has like several projects to maintain the ecological flow of the river. Okay, so as you can see, it is not a joke. All right. So real-time water quality monitoring station is there. Then sewage infrastructure, ghats and crematoria. समझ में आ रहा है आपको point? So afforestation, rural sanitation, public participation, etc. All these are like very important point. Then legal provisions for management, handling of hazardous waste, like Water Act of 1974. Then hazardous and other waste rules of 2016. So all these are like important points. Okay. So there are legal provisions, obviously. So these are some of the points which we are discussing. Okay. Thank you. Yojana and Hindu will not be enough, but there are better things like PIB etc. कई बार वो पढ़ना पड़ेगा. So let us move to 2014. ठीक है. 2014 में चलते हैं सर. So environmental impact assessment studies are increasingly undertaken before the project is cleared by the government. Discuss the environmental impact of coal-fired thermal plants located at pit heads. अभी देखो ऐसा क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया आपसे, फंसा दिया ना आपको. देखो क्वेश्चन थोड़ा टिपिकल सा है, not an easy question, right? Let us see what is this question and what is this about. So एक बार इसको अपन पढ़ते हैं अच्छे से, ठीक है. So अब किसी ने EIA अगर पढ़ा है मेरे से अच्छे से तो लिख देगा, नहीं यार नहीं पढ़ा तो नहीं लिख पाएगा. So EIA basically let us say, मान लो कि आपको एक जगह पे 20 पेड़ काटने हैं. देखो जल्दी से बता रहा हूँ, ठीक है. 20 पेड़ काट के एक फैक्ट्री लगेगी वहां पे, और उस फैक्ट्री से वहां पे जो 200 फैमिली है उनको एक नौकरी मिल जाएगी, राइट. और फिर उनका लाइफ स्टैंडर्ड बढ़ जाएगा एक्सेट्रा. तो उससे एक सोशल इम्पैक्ट पॉजिटिव पड़ेगा नहीं पड़ेगा? उनका लाइफ स्टैंडर्ड बढ़ेगा, उनके बच्चे अच्छे स्कूल में जाएंगे, उनको अच्छा हॉस्पिटल मिलेगा, बिल्कुल बढ़ेगा, राइट. सो लेट अस से वो 10 यूनिट से बढ़ता है, बट अगर आपने वो 20 पेड़ काट दिए तो मान लो 11 यूनिट से एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट कम हो जाता है. सो बेसिकली इन दैट केस यस इट इज सोशली वेरी बेनिफिशियल फॉर द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ दैट रीजन. बट इफ रोमन सैनी इज द EIA पर्सन इन चार्ज, आई विल नॉट अलाउ दैट प्रोजेक्ट टू गो अहेड. समझ में आ गया पॉइंट? So that is the only thing which matters, whether the large scale project का जो environmental impact है, is it more than the benefit it will provide to the society. If that is the case, if it actually gives more benefit to the society, then we take some environmental damage. समझ में आ गया? But if it does not give anything at all, then we don't take any environmental damage. Is it absolutely clear? So environment impact assessment is the systematic identification, evaluation of the potential impacts of large scale projects on the environment. ठीक है? So what is EIA? EIA is what? So it is systematic identification, evaluation of, obviously 9 यूनिट होगा तो कर देंगे ना यार, वही तो बोल रहा हूँ आपको. कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस कर रहे हैं ना यहाँ पे बैठ के. So it is often required for obtaining environmental clearance for objects. How can there be any project which has zero environmental impact, right? Isn't it? आप लोग जिंदा हो, आप environment को तबाह कर रहे हो, right? Don't you understand that? Ideally, we should kill like 80% of human beings. Problem will be solved. So the very fact that we are alive and we are breathing and we are eating every day. Some people are eating chicken, some are eating different animals. So we are killing the environment, right? We are generating for next 50 years, we'll be killing the environment. So we should kill ourselves if that is the case. But in that case, that is not ethically correct, right? So in that case, societal benefit is more than the environmental damage, isn't it? Common sense तो ये है कि every animal who is living beyond the carrying capacity of the environment, like human beings, are destroying the environment. But in that case, uh, we have to, the social output, social is more. Now, environmental impact of coal-fired thermal plants. The thermal plants are one of the biggest pollutants in the world. Do you know this? ये जो थर्मल प्लांट्स होते हैं बहुत ज़्यादा पॉल्यूशन करते हैं भयंकर तरीके से. वाई? बिकॉज पहले तो आउटडेटेड होते हैं, सेकेंडली दे आर बेस्ड ऑन कोल. Now coal, when it burned, it released huge truckload of crap. All right. So coal is used in thermal plants to generate electricity. To establish a coal-based thermal power plant, site is selected based on availability of coal, based on availability of water, land, transportation facilities, proximity to coal mines, load centers, etc. And the establishment of coal-based power plants, it requires destruction of large forest lands. समझ रहे हो? So establishment of coal-based power plants, it requires destruction of large forest lands. समझ गए क्या? So it requires huge destruction of large forest lands. Otherwise, these coal-based power plants can never be established because उनको बहुत बड़ा एरिया चाहिए होगा सर. Okay, समझ गए क्या? So this is like ultra important and ultra these are like absolutely needed. Okay, इसके बिना काम नहीं चलेगा. So coal-based thermal plants, they cause heavy air pollution due to emission of mercury, arsenic, black carbon, particulate matter, sulfates, other gases, etc. ठीक है? So please remember this. Now domestic coals ऐसे ही हमारा बेकार coal होता है, right? I hope you know that domestic coal have very high ash content also. So coal-based thermal plants, especially if they use domestic, produce a lot of fly ash. So government has already allowed fly ash selling to industries. There is low demand, right? Because brake tiles, road construction, etc. Is needed because it is higher cost. It can also be like people are trying to fill it in low-lying areas used in agriculture, but people are thinking it can cause pollution also, right? Indian coal is a very poor quality, so more ash and pollution is generated. And land, water and coal is used in large quantities in thermal plants. समझ रहे हो? तीनों का pollution होता है बढ़िया से. लैंड बहुत ज़्यादा जाता है तो यूजुअली आपको पेड़ वेड़ काटने पड़ते हैं. वाटर का पॉल्यूशन होता है बिकॉज वाटर इज यूज्ड इन लार्ज क्वांटिटी, राइट? एंड कोल तो ऑब्वियसली होता ही है. एंड मोस्ट कम्युनिटीज विच आर लोकेटेड नियर द plants, they do not benefit from these plants, but you are sharing your resource with them. There is a risk of leaching of coal, right? So coal can leach and it can contaminate the groundwater. समझ रहे हो? जो ग्राउंड वाटर वगैरह होता है उसका कंटेमिनेशन हो सकता है इससे भयंकर. सो और कई बार क्या होता है, वॉशिंग ऑफ कोल, कूलिंग डाउन, उसमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा पानी यूज़ होता है तो पानी का वेस्टेज होता है. इट कैन लीड टू ह्यूज हेल्थ hazards to people living around them. So please remember that. So government has taken a lot of impact also to reduce it, but till now nothing much has been done. Anyway, so आगे बढ़ते हैं. Drought has been recognized as a disaster in view of its party expense, temporal duration, slow onset, lasting effect on various vulnerable sections. With the focus on September 2010 guidelines from the National Disaster Management Authority, discuss the mechanism for preparedness to deal with El Nino and La Nina fallouts in India. So now, basically उस टाइम पे चल रहा था, समझ रहे हो ना? उस टाइम पे आप एडिटोरियल पढ़ोगे तो ये चल रहा था उस टाइम पे ड्रामा. So southwest monsoon accounts for 3/4 of the rainfall. ये तो पता होगा. In 1/4 of the months we get 3/4 of the rainfall. ये तो हर बच्चा जानता है इंडिया में, राइट? 25% मंथ्स में 75% रेनफॉल आता है, यानी कि जून, जुलाई, अगस्त और सितंबर, यानी कि 4/12. ऑलराइट, सो लगभग 1/3 मंथ्स में. So 33% of the months में you get 75% of the rainfall, right? So please remember this fact. Okay. So just 25 to 30%, 33% of the months where you get like 60 to 75% of the rain. Okay. So now failure of southwest monsoon can lead to drought in India. You know this? Obviously, if it is accounting to maximum rainfall and it is analyzed, it is related to El Nino, La Nina events. So now there are like detailed guidelines which are available. How can you prepare for it, etc. What are the mitigation measures? तो ये आप पढ़ लेना, ठीक है. So now let us discuss the points related to the Namami Ganga National Mission for Clean Ganga programs, causes of mixed results from the previous schemes, what quantum leaps can help preserve the river Ganga better than incremental inputs. All right. So now let us discuss this. So that is also like fairly important, right? काफी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है क्योंकि आप देख रहे हो अभी गंगा पे पहले भी क्वेश्चन आया था, फिर से गंगा पे क्वेश्चन आ गया. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो गंगा इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रिवर फॉर इंडिया. ऑब्वियसली इट इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट रिवर फॉर इंडिया बाई फार, मतलब के आसपास भी नहीं है. सो describe the Namami Ganga program, national vision for clean Ganga, and reasons for mixed results from previous schemes. Mention quantum leaps which can be undertaken in preserving Ganga. So चलो देखते हैं क्या है इसका. See, Ganga Action Plan was launched in 85. The National Mission for Clean Ganga was established as a society, and implementation of this society was of this mission was done by National Ganga River Basin Authority. देखो गंगा रिवर के बारे में तो रट्टा लगा लेना, ठीक है. Just memorize everything under the sun. And it was under the provision of Environment Protection Act. Then it was dissolved in 2016. It was replaced with National Council for Rejuvenation, Protection, Management of River Ganga. So Act envisages a 5-tier structure at national, state, district. The Namami Ganga program is a flagship program of the Indian government. So effective abatement of pollution, conservation, rejuvenation of River Ganga, etc. So that is like the important point. Obviously, even after 34 years, Ganga River is like not at all clean, right? बिल्कुल बैंड बजी पड़ी है, मतलब यमुना जैसी हालत तो नहीं हुई अभी, बट बहुत ज़्यादा दूर भी नहीं है. ओके. सो मेन पिलर्स क्या हो सकते हैं? देखो सबसे पहले तो आपको सीवरेज ट्रीटमेंट करना पड़ता है किसी भी रिवर में, राइट? सो इतना कचरा है, इतना कचरा है उस रिवर में, इतना कचरा, सीवरेज, डेड बॉडीज, बहुत कुछ है. ऑल राइट. सो यू नीड टू टेक केयर ऑफ दिस फर्स्ट. Then surface of the river needs to be clean. Now one of the best way to clean the rivers is to plant trees alongside. ठीक है? Afforestation. Then industry effluent should not be discharged in the river, right? फिर जो रिवर फ्रंट है उसको सुंदर बनाओ ना. जैसे इफ यू गो टू यूरोपियन कंट्रीज, इफ यू गो टू लंडन, इफ यू गो टू सिंगापुर, so their river fronts are very well developed, all right? So because of like people are attracted to there, etc. So it generates economy based on the cleanliness of the river slash lake. समझ रहे हो क्या? So if you develop the riverfront of that river, then the cleanliness automatically takes care of itself. There is money to clean the river. And biodiversity conservation, obviously, if you don't conserve the biodiversity of a river, the river will die, right? You have to take care of the biodiversity of the river. Biodiversity is the number one reason why the rivers are alive after millions of years, right? Life take care of itself. Always remember that, okay? Life always takes care of itself. सो लाइफ को दिक्कत नहीं है, वो ह्यूमन बीइंग घुस जाते हैं तब दिक्कत होती है. एक मछली दो मछली खा भी जाएगी तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, ठीक है. देन पब्लिक अवेयरनेस इज अ ह्यूज इशू, राइट? पीपल डोंट नो व्हाट दे कैन डू टू क्लीन द रिवर, राइट? People need to be sensitized about it, etc. Then Ganga Gram, etc. All these are important points. So we have to involve people living on the banks of the river to attain sustainable results. Otherwise तो आप कितना भी कुछ कर लो, वो लोग आएंगे सब बैंड बज जाएगा एक बार में, right? That is not something which is desirable. So government is also involving states, grassroots level institutions like urban local bodies, panchayati raj institutions, and cleaning the Ganga is an extremely complex task because of its socio-economic, cultural importance. All right. So please remember this. It requires multi-sectoral, multi-dimensional, multi-stakeholder approach. Okay. So you need to have multi-sectoral, multi-dimensional, multi-stakeholder approach. Okay. Every citizen needs to be aware of the extent of pollution. Coordinated approach is needed. Otherwise, कुछ ना होना जाना. The frequency of earthquake appears to have increased in Indian subcontinent. However, India's preparedness for mitigating their impact has significant gaps. Do you agree with it? Yes, अगर इंडिया में earthquake आ गया इस टाइम पे तो 10,000 लोग भी मर सकते हैं, 1 लाख लोग भी मर सकते हैं, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द इंटेंसिटी ऑफ द earthquake and where it occurs. And everyone knows about it. ऐसा नहीं कुछ छुपा हुआ है कि कुछ धोखे से आ जाएगा. Everyone knows that yes, North India is especially prone to earthquake. Yes, Delhi, Himalayan belt is prone to earthquake. But even if it comes, we can't do anything about it, right? अभी हमसे हवा पानी उसी लेवल पे चीजें नहीं हो पा रही, तो थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा उसमें, isn't it? और उसमें ज्यादा टाइम भी ना लग जाए, वो भी हमें देखना पड़ेगा. See, many parts of India is prone. All right, so like a lot of India is prone to earthquake. Okay, and increase in earthquake risk is because of huge increase in developmental activities driven by urbanization, economic development, globalization of our economy. and increase in the use of high technology equipment, etc. That also makes it very susceptible to disruption. What are the gaps in India's preparedness? So forecasting disasters, right? We are much behind than any other country. 100% agreed. Lack of guidelines, किसी को कुछ पता ही नहीं क्या करना है, कुछ हो भी जाए तो. There is a huge shortage of trained manpower, right? Post disaster management, absolute खत्म है. The norms etc redundant, right? Construction cost, labor charges, सब repeat होता रहता है. हर इतने stringent law होते हैं कि कोई उसको like you bribe your way out of it, and every day you hear that one building has collapsed, right? In Mumbai, Maharashtra, Delhi metros, you will every time hear this house has collapsed, this building has collapsed, that hotel has collapsed, right? So these are fairly things because of the redundant norms etc, because stringently they are not reviewed properly, और ये सब चलता रहता है. Okay. For example, let's say if you have planned urbanization like in Japan. Now Japan is on ring of fire, right? But it is one of the world's most developed country. तो रिंग ऑफ फायर पे होने के बावजूद भी वहाँ पे कुछ ज़्यादा होता जाता है नहीं. ठीक है, प्लीज रिमेंबर दिस. Now Indian disaster resource network should be institutionalized. We need a strong disaster management agency. So disaster preparedness should be focused on meeting immediate contingency, implementing conceptual long-term rehab strategy, etc. And it must be built on anticipatory governance. Now NDRF must fill its vacant specialist positions also. Very, very important. Now let us see this again. Can you see this vulnerability, disaster, rehabilitation, पोस्ट डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, प्री डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, यही चलता रहता है. मैं आपको एक साथ इसलिए बता रहा हूँ क्योंकि काफी कॉमनली रिपीट होते हैं सर क्वेश्चंस. So rehabilitation of human settlement is one of the important environmental impacts which always attracts controversy while planning major projects. Discuss the measures suggested for mitigation of this impact while proposing major developmental projects. Now this is also related to EIA. Is it clear? Environmental impact assessment अगर आप पढ़ोगे तो उसमें सबसे important ये भी impact देखा जाता है कि जो लोग वहां पे पहले से रहते थे उनकी लाइफ पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा. So thousands of people are displaced, right, because of acquisition of lands for the project. So where do you keep these people? So it brings forward the issue of rehabilitation of the displaced people, and it affects the livelihoods of a lot of people. Okay, so government has failed them to provide proper rehabilitation, and there is a poor commitment to recognize the role of those who give up their critical assets, etc. So that is very, 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 very important. Okay. So you have right to fair compensation, transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, resettlement act, also called as LAR. Okay. So right to fair compensation, transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, resettlement act. So it establishes a structure which ensures rehabilitation, resettlement of those people whose lives are likely to be most affected by taking of their properties. Okay. So this is called as LAR, Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation, Resettlement Act. So, and this culture and society of the displaced people are also to be given due points. So just go through it. बट इससे क्या पता चल रहा है आपको? जैसे अगेन देखो, frequency of urban floods due to high intensity rainfall is increasing over the years. Can you see this disaster management, disaster mitigation, disaster post disaster management, vulnerability, hazard, risk, community coping capability, ये बहुत कॉमन आता है, राइट? So frequency of urban floods due to high intensity rainfall is increasing over the years. Now, if you see this question, it is asked in 2016, right? So if you see this question, it is asked in 2016. Okay. So now, and if you obviously if you have some common sense, so in 2013 there was huge floods in Uttarakhand, right? और उसके बाद भी काफी सारे इश्यूज थे. So लास्ट 1 से 2 साल के करंट अफेयर्स पूछे जा सकते हैं, बस that was the limited point I am trying to make. So flooding in urban areas is caused by intense or prolonged rainfall. So urban flooding can be meteorological, hydrological, human factors. So heavy rainfall आ गई मान लो, तो कुछ ज्यादा कर नहीं पाओगे. साइक्लोनिक स्टॉर्म आ गया, थंडर स्टॉर्म आ गया. So these are all weather related phenomena, right? So that is why it's classified in meteorology. And hydrological means presence or absence of overbank flow channel networks, occurrence of high tides, impeding the drainage in coastal cities, etc. Then you have human factors like land use changes, surface sealing due to urbanization, occupation of floodplains, obstruction of flood flows, urban heat island effect, sudden release of water from dams, failure to release water from dams result in a backwater effect. All these are like very, very important things. Okay. Then indiscriminate disposal of solid waste into urban water drains. Okay, so this is also a huge problem. Then urban floods affecting a large population in a small area, leading to major economic losses. All these are like fairly important things. Now, how you can mitigate urban floods? Obviously, cities need to be planned properly, right? सबसे पहले तो वही आधी चीजें तो वहीं solve हो जाएंगी. If cities are planned properly, proper drainage, proper waste disposal system. See, whether it is Mumbai, whether it is Chennai, whether it is Patna, you have seen everything in last 5 6 years. All of these cities getting flooded, right? मतलब घुटनों तक पानी भरा हुआ है, छाती तक पानी भरा हुआ है, पीपल आर नॉट एबल टू मूव. सो इट्स नॉट लाइक कि ऐसा कुछ पता नहीं है, नहीं होता, बट वो होता रहता है. लोग आदत पड़ जाती है, राइट? पीपल आर यूज्ड टू सो लो स्टैंडर्ड्स दैट इन दिल्ली इफ यू गिव देम क्लीन एयर दे थिंक दैट इट इज अ विक्ट्री. समझ रहे हो? तो इतने स्टैंडर्ड गिर गए हमारे कि सांस लेने की हवा मिल जाती है तो जय जयकार हो जाती है. समझ रहे हो? तो मतलब 200-300 AQI जो कि बहुत ही डेंजरस माना जाता है यूएसए वगैरह में, वहाँ पे प्रोटेस्ट चालू हो जाते हैं 200-300 पे. 200-300 पे तो बधाई मिलने लग जाती है दिल्ली में. साहब आज तो 200-300 चल रहा है. ओके. हम्म. So heavy rainfall can occur in any city at any time. By the way, like if in USA, I was in San Francisco, so वहाँ पे 200 टच हो जाता है तो वहाँ पे लोग परेशान हो जाते हैं कि भाई मास्क वास्क लगा लो, और ये HEPA फिल्टर है और ये फिल्टर है फलाना. ओके. एनीवे, so city residents should identify flood-prone areas, be prepared to tackle flooding. Then adequate drainage systems are in place, these are unclogged, etc. All these are very, very important points. Then real-time weather updates should be there. People should be educated on the cause, impact measures, etc. People living on ground floor should take simple measures like installing the gas connection, water heater, electric panels. All these are very, very important. And they should put check valves and sewer traps to prevent flood water from backing up into the drain. So ये काफी important points हैं. So you can just go through them. With reference to National Disaster Management Authority guidelines, discuss the measures to be adopted to mitigate the impact of recent incidents of cloudburst in many places of Uttarakhand. Can you see this? Can you see this nonsense? Urban floods due to high intensity rainfall is increasing over the years. Discuss the reason for urban floods. Now see this question. With reference to NDA में discuss the measures. आप समझ रहे हो चांदी हो जाएगी आपने अगर ये टॉपिक अच्छे से पढ़ लिया होता तो उस टाइम पे. So again, like it is an extreme amount of precipitation, sometimes with hail and thunder. So do you understand ये लास्ट के 2 साल की करंट अफेयर पूछने की गंदी आदत कहाँ से पड़ी? So यहीं से चालू होता है, 2015 से चालू हो रही है, ठीक है, 2015-16 से. So if you see that तब से चल रहा है और 2019 में तो और ज्यादा प्रोनाउंस कर दिया है. See, we are a huge, very favorable place for developing cloudburst because we are surrounded by ocean on 3 sides, and a cloudburst cannot be predicted because of dynamics of rapid developing cloud cover. And it can occur at any place affected by convective weather systems. So a cloudburst is capable of creating landslides, flash flood conditions, which can cause sudden and extensive damage to life, property, etc. So yeah. So what are the measures to mitigate the cloudburst? Structural measures are needed, like construction of banks, flood walls, flood leaves, etc. Channel improvement to improve carrying capacity of river, dredging of rivers, drainage improvement to avoid congestion, diversion of flood water into an artificially constructed channel, etc. ठीक है, यही तो कर सकते हो क्लाउड बर्स्ट के लिए. सबसे पहले तो स्ट्रक्चरल मेजर कर दो और फिर नॉन स्ट्रक्चरल मेजर कर दो, लाइक फ्लड प्लेन जोनिंग, फ्लड प्रूफिंग, क्लाउड फोरकास्टिंग, वार्निंग, इंटीग्रेटेड वाटर रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट, एक्सेट्रा. तो ये तो अपना हो गया अभी तक का. थोड़ा आगे का भी इसमें कुछ पढ़ लेते हैं अपन. सो ताकि अगले सेशन में जब मेंस का पढ़े तो उसमें प्री कवर कर लूंगा मैं, ठीक है, क्योंकि आई थिंक आपका प्री का भी बचा हुआ है, राइट? So some portion of prelims is still left, so I'll try to cover that. So इसको देख लो मेंस में. So not many years ago, river linking was a concept, but it is becoming a reality in the country. Discuss the advantage of river linking, its possible impact on the environment. So देखो, there is a national perspective plan which talks about this. So advantages क्या होंगे? Water from floods can be transferred to water into drought prone area, isn't it? कितना सिंपल है, कितना बढ़िया एडवांटेज है. For example, there are some region parts of the eastern Ganga which always receive flood. There is other part where always western India जहाँ पे scarcity होती है. So that is the number one point जो कि common sense मतलब कोई भी इंसान इसको पता कर सकता है, right? 1 मिनट में पता चल जाएगा. Lot of interstate water disputes can be resolved if you connect the rivers, and it can give an additional benefits of 35 million hectare of irrigation. It will raise the irrigation potential from 140 million hectares to 175 million hectares, isn't it? So 140 million hectares से 175 million hectare में बढ़ा दिया. Okay. So benefits of 35 million hectare of irrigation, resolve interstate water disputes, अल्टीमेट इरिगेशन पोटेंशियल बढ़ जाएगा. तो काफी कुछ है. इनेबल जनरेशन ऑफ 34 गीगावाट ऑफ हाइड्रो पावर है, 34,000 मेगावाट ऑफ हाइड्रो पावर, इजंट इट? नेविगेशन हो सकता है, बेनिफिट बेटर फ्लड कंट्रोल, वाटर सप्लाई, फिशरी, सैलिनिटी, पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल. आप लिख दोगे अगली बार पूछे तो? सबसे पहले एक्सेस फ्लड से ड्रॉट की तरफ पानी ला सकता है, इंटरस्टेट वाटर डिस्प्यूट सॉल्व हो सकते हैं, एडिशनल 35 मिलियन हेक्टेयर ऑफ इरिगेशन हो सकता है, 34,000 मेगावाट हाइड्रो पावर जनरेट हो सकती है, फ्लड कंट्रोल में हेल्प मिल सकती है, नेविगेशन बेटर हो सकता है, वाटर सप्लाई बेटर हो सकती है, फिशरीज बेटर हो सकती हैं, सैलिनिटी को कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, पॉल्यूशन को कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. इजंट इट? Is it very difficult to answer such a question? I don't think so. It's very difficult. It's just that people don't think too much in the exam hall. It's very easy to answer interlinking of river, what can benefits. Even if you have not studied it explicitly, you can answer this question, right? Common sense लगा के भी आंसर किया जा सकता था एग्जाम में, और अगर 10 पॉइंट नहीं तो कम से कम 5 पॉइंट तो लिखे जा सकते हैं, राइट? कॉमन सेंस के साथ. अब देखो इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा. सो सबसे पहले तो इट विल रिक्वायर ह्यूज लार्ज स्केल कंस्ट्रक्शन टू कनेक्ट देम, राइट? मतलब पानी ऐसी जगह से बहेगा जहां पे पहले नहीं बहता था, इजंट इट? तो उसके लिए पेड़ कटेंगे, उसके लिए हैबिटाट डिस्ट्रक्शन होंगे, सोसाइटी डिस्ट्रक्शन होंगे, फार्मलैंड्स जाएंगे, राइट? एंड इट कैन लीड टू डेजर्टिफिकेशन ऑफ द लैंड फेयरली कॉमनली. ऑब्वियसली लोग वहां पे रहते होंगे, उनका रिहेबिलिटेशन होगा, राइट? देयर विल बी ह्यूज चेंज इन सेडिमेंटेशन इन द रिवर्स, राइट? And there is always uncertainty on these things because you are experimenting with nature. There is no certainty here, right? There can be huge, जैसे आप फॉर एग्जांपल जब पहली बार ये सिल्वर आयोडाइड वगैरह डिस्कवर हुए थे तो लोगों को लगा था कि कोई जादुई जड़ी बूटी है, आप बादलों पे छिड़कोगे बारिश हो जाएगी, राइट? पहले हुई 1-2 बार, फिर बाद में पता चला बादलों पे छिड़के कर्नाटका में बारिश हो रही है महाराष्ट्र में, ओके? या फिर बादलों में छिड़के आज बारिश ही नहीं हुई, ओके? डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो नेचर डज नॉट वर्क कि सिल्वर आयोडाइड ऊपर जाके छिड़क दिया और नीचे बारिश हो गई. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? So there is first of all there is no temporal and spatial variations are seen. So for example आज छिड़का पता चला बारिश ही नहीं हुई, या आज छिड़का बारिश आगे जाके हो गई 50 किलोमीटर, ओके? So you don't know what are you doing trying to do. Nature is very complicated. It's not like कि एक लीवर घुमाया और सब बढ़िया हो गया. Doesn't work that way. So rivers in various parts have varying levels of pollution, and interlinking will result in transfer of polluted waters. And because of climate change, changing patterns of monsoons, it remains to be seen whether the surplus rivers of today will maintain their status. Okay. नहीं, साइंस इज इट इज नॉट एग्जैक्ट साइंस बाय द वे. फॉर एग्जांपल मॉनसून कितना होगा कितना नहीं होगा, एलिनो आएगा एलिनो नहीं आएगा, अर्थक्वेक आएगा नहीं आएगा, सुनामी आएगी नहीं आएगी, कितनी जोर से आएगी, कब आएगी, दिस इज नॉट एग्जैक्ट साइंस. ऑलराइट, मतलब दिस इज एग्जैक्ट साइंस बट वी आर टू प्रिमिटिव अ सोसाइटी टू अंडरस्टैंड इट. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? इट इज exact science but our science is not advanced enough to predict it. I hope आप समझ गए होगे. We are not an advanced species. We are a very like बच्चा species. अभी हम मार्स वीनस पे तो जा नहीं पाते, isn't it? मून पे गए हुए हमें तो सालों साल हो चुके हैं. कहाँ से हम क्लाइमेट प्रिडिक्ट करेंगे अर्थ का? Climate change is a global problem. How India will be affected by climate change? How Himalayan coastal states of India will be affected by climate change? अगर मैं होता टीचर तो मैं इसका ऐसे करता 3-4-4, समझ रहे हो? अगर ये 10 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन होता तो 3 नंबर आपको मिलते. क्लाइमेट चेंज इंडिया कैसे अफेक्ट होगा, क्लाइमेट चेंज ग्लोबल प्रॉब्लम है, उस पर लिखता मैं. ऑलराइट, और फिर उसके अलावा आपको ऐसे भी कर सकते हो, इनिशियल फर्स्ट पार्ट को 5 दे दिए, दूसरे पार्ट को 5 दे दिए, समझ रहे हो? सो ग्लोबल प्रॉब्लम को आपको मिलेंगे 1 नंबर. यू हैव टू डिस्क्राइब व्हाट हाउ व्हाई इज इट अ ग्लोबल प्रॉब्लम, एंड हाउ विल इंडिया अफेक्टेड बाय क्लाइमेट चेंज को मिलेंगे 4, और फिर हाउ हिमालयन कोस्टल स्टेट्स ऑफ इंडिया विल अफेक्टेड इसको 5. समझ रहे हो? सो लेट अस से इफ यू जस्ट राइट इट्स अ ग्लोबल प्रॉब्लम, बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत अच्छी बात है, तो आपको 1 में से 10 नंबर मिल जाएगा, आगे भगा देगा एग्जामिनर, या आधा मिलेगा. बट इफ यू राइट हाउ विल इंडिया अफेक्टेड बाय क्लाइमेट चेंज, तो उसमें आपको 4 में से 10 मिल जाएंगे या 3 में से 10. So if you don't explicitly write all these 3 points separately, you will not get marks. I hope you are clear about it. अगर ये अलग से बड़ा बड़ा नहीं लिखा आपने अलग से करके तो नहीं होगा कुछ, ठीक है। So effect of climate change on India, effect of climate change on Himalayan states, effect of climate change on coastal states. So all these are very, very important. So climate change in India, 4 by 4 assessment, sectoral regional analysis for 2030 so it was established. So see climate change क्या impact करेंगे, okay, सब कुछ ही impact करेंगे, right? Agriculture impact करेंगे नहीं करेंगे, बिल्कुल करेंगे. Water impact करेंगे नहीं करेंगे, बिल्कुल करेंगे. Forest भी करेंगे, health भी करेंगे. And there are 4 climate sensitive regions of India. Okay, have you heard about Western Ghats? बिल्कुल सही बात है. You must have heard about the second hotspot, the Himalayan and the Northeast region, right? And the coast are always vulnerable. So please remember this. So rise in temperature can be very high. Okay, precipitation can change. Extreme precipitation, crops, forest, health, water, सबकी बैंड बच सकती है. So there is a huge impact of climate change on Himalayan rivers like extreme temperature, precipitation. So just go through exactly what will happen in fisheries, etc. What will happen in the coastal area. These are important points, and we'll have to cover it. In December 2004, tsunami brought havoc on 14 countries, including India. Discuss the factors responsible for the occurrence of tsunami and its effect on life and economy in the light of guidelines of NDMA. Describe the mechanisms for preparedness to reduce the risk during such events. So, tsunami is basically a series of waves caused by rapid displacement of a body of water. So, causes of tsunamis are earthquakes. So, it can be generated by movements along fault zones. An earthquake can cause tsunamis if they occur beneath the ocean. It is very strong. It ruptures the earth's surface, causes vertical movement of the sea floor, etc. Okay, so that is earthquake. Okay, then you have landslides. So those which occur along the coast underwater, it can cause tsunamis. That is also there. Then you have volcanic eruption, like infrequent, violent volcanic eruptions. It can displace a great volume of water and it generate extremely destructive tsunami waves. All right, so that is volcanic eruption. Right? बता रखे ना सब कुछ तो आपको. लैंडस्लाइड, अर्थक्वेक, एटॉमिक बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट, वोल्केनिक eruption, एक्स्ट्रा टेरेस्ट्रियल कोलिजन, ये भी बताया था मैंने आपको. ये मूवी भी बनाई थी इस थीम पे कि भाई ऊपर से आके गिर गया मीटियोराइट और बैंड बच गई अर्थ की. सो ह्यूज डेथ, ह्यूज लाइक स्प्रेड ऑफ वाटर बॉर्न डिजीजेस. एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट तो होता ही है. इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट होता है. पोर्ट्स डिस्ट्रॉयड, फिशिंग इंडस्ट्री डिस्ट्रॉयड, रिकंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ द डिस्ट्रॉयड एरियाज cost like crores of rupees, etc. Communication system is damaged. Tourism industry gets affected, etc. So just to study how to get prepared for tsunamis, etc. So what are the impediments in disposing of the huge quantities of discarded solid waste which are continuously being generated? How do we remove safely the toxic wastes which have been accumulating in our habitable environment? Very, very important, right? Solid waste, toxic waste, municipalities, cities, very, very important. So it is mainly solid waste problem arises because of urbanization. Okay. So for example, in a decent sized states like Haryana, Punjab, do you know, जैसे for example, कई लोगों को शौक लगता है. So you must have heard about that Haryana has around 2.5 crore people. Okay. But do you know Delhi also has like 2 crore people? Now Haryana is huge, Delhi is very small. But because Delhi is urbanized, so it is almost the same population. ये समझ में आ रहा है आपको? So Delhi NCR region is two crore people. Okay. So Mumbai metropolitan area complete also has 2 crore people. Okay. So जैसे पूरे पंजाब में सिर्फ 3 करोड़ लोग रहते हैं. So this is not a joke. Okay. Points. मतलब इतना बड़ा है. पूरे गोवा स्टेट में आपको 20 लाख लोग रहते होंगे, राइट? सो अर्बनाइजेशन क्रिएट्स ऑल दीज प्रॉब्लम्स. पूरे गोवा में 20 लाख लोग हैं, दिल्ली एनसीआर में 2 करोड़ लोग हैं. पॉइंट समझ रहे हो? So again, like because of rapid urbanization, all these problems rise up. 10 times human beings रह रहे हैं जरा से एरिया में. So obviously it will lead to problem, right? So 62 million tons of municipal solid waste is generated. So there is a huge impediment in discarding. It is costly to transport this to landfill sites. There is not enough participation from not-for-profit. Segregation of waste is very difficult. It is not enforced at the source, and that is the only point it has to be done. Waste management is offered free of cost to residents. Contractors try to dump more waste in landfills. Okay, so they are also prone to illegally dump waste at unauthorized sites. So compost is not in demand. People don't invest in composting, etc. Now, what are the measures for the safe removal of toxic waste? So toxic waste should be segregated as e-waste, solid plastic waste. and each kind of toxic waste can be used or recycled before it is disposed. Okay, तो और भी बुरी बात है ना, तो उसमें इसमें प्राइड लेने की क्या बात है कार्तिक, कि मुंबई का 40% रहते हैं, तो उससे और भी बुरी बात है, वहां पे और बैंड बजेगी फिर. So toxic waste can be treated biologically, chemically, physically, thermally, etc. to change the nature of toxicity. But Mumbai has one thing which Delhi does not have. मुंबई में क्या होता है, सारा कचरा आप समंदर में बहा सकते हो. Okay, so that is one of the major reasons that why pollution in Delhi is very bad as compared to Mumbai, because let us say sea will take care of your climate, right? Sea will take care of your pollutants, air, water, सब purify कर देगा sea. Okay, so but if you see the beaches of Mumbai, they will not be great then. Okay, so implementation of hazardous waste management rules will ensure safe disposal of toxic waste, etc. Now what is wetland? देखो रामसर तो रट लेना अच्छे से, ठीक है. रामसर इज अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट, मैं भी रटा दूंगा. ये इस साल भी आया था बाय द वे. ओके, तो कभी ना कभी हर साल कुछ ना कुछ इसके पूछते ही रहते हैं. इसमें कभी प्री में आ जाता है, कभी मेंस में आ जाता है, कभी इंटरव्यू में आ जाता है. So what is the wetland? Explain the Ramsar. अभी तो जैसे अभी काफी इंसिडेंट हुए हैं, राइट. हजारों बर्ड्स मर गए हैं. आई होप यू नो दैट. सो मतलब इंडिया बिल्कुल ही बदनाम करोगे यार. वो बाहर से बेचारे आते हैं हजारों किलोमीटर रोड उड़ा के, थोड़ा रिलैक्स करने के लिए कि चलो यहाँ पे थोड़ा पानी वानी पीते, मर गए सारे. इट डजंट लुक गुड फॉर द कंट्री, राइट. So explain the Ramsar concept of wise use in the context of wetland conservation and give two examples of Ramsar sites from India. So define wetland, explain the Ramsar concept of wise use in wetland, give two examples in India. So see, wetland includes all lakes, rivers, underground aquifers, swamps, marshes, wet grasslands, peatlands, oases, estuaries, deltas, tidal flats, mangroves, other pots, etc. So what is the Ramsar concept of wise use in this? So maintenance of their ecological character. Okay. So conservation, sustainable use of wetlands, all the services which they provide, right? So ये सब पढ़ लेना. We have discussed all this. तो इसमें कुछ there is no like new concept as such here. And adopting national, मतलब आगे डिस्कस कर लेंगे. पॉइंट वो था डेवलपिंग प्रोग्राम्स, डेवलपिंग इंटीग्रेटेड मैनेजमेंट प्लान्स. फॉर एग्जांपल्स तो बहुत सारे हैं. दीज आर द लाइक वाइज यूज गाइडलाइंस. सब कुछ सेम ही होता है. मेंटेन वाटर क्वालिटी, फ्लड कंट्रोल, प्रिवेंट सॉइल इरोजन, सपोर्ट फिशरीज, आउटडोर रिक्रिएशन, क्लाइमेट स्टेबिलिटी. दीज आर लाइक सेम पॉइंट्स. लाइक वुलर लेक है, केवलादेव नेशनल पार्क है. Okay, so there are different wetlands in India. How does biodiversity vary in India? How is the BD Act 2000 to help in the conservation of flora and fauna? So we are one of the mega biodiverse countries, ranked 10th among the plant-rich countries of the world. With only 2.4% of the world's land area, India accounts for 7 to 8% of recorded species. It also has 24% of geographical area under forest and tree cover, right? It keeps on varying. Just remember 22% is under forest cover and 33% is the target. Can you just remember this simple figure? 22% is under forest cover, 33% is the target. अगले सेंसस में चेंज हो तो रट लेना, बाकी कोई लोड नहीं है. There are various reasons. What is the role of Biodiversity Act of 2002? One of the most important act which we are going to cover each and every line wise. ठीक है, line by line पढ़ाऊंगा पूरा मैं आपको. So this was asked. Now again like वही same बकवास आ गया यार. Sendai और Hogo framework में क्या difference है? So describe various measures taken in India for disaster risk reduction before and after signing the Sendai framework for DRR. Now is this framework different from the Hugo framework for action? So these are the typical question. उस टाइम पे बहुत hot topics थे, ठीक है. Sustainable development goals भी उसी टाइम चालू हुए थे. ये Sendai framework, Hugo framework रोज न्यूज में आता था. Okay, PIB में थे, etc. So do read about it. What is the difference between that, etc. So 2019 के questions आप अपने level पे पढ़ लेना. Coastal sand mining, whether legal or illegal. So the vulnerability is an essential element for defining disaster impacts. Then define the concept carrying capacity of an ecosystem. ये हम अच्छे से cover करेंगे. Explain how understanding is very important for sustainable development of a region. And disaster preparedness is the first step in any disaster management process. Explain how hazard zonation mapping will help in disaster reduction, etc. ठीक है? So do go through them and I'll cover the prelims question. चालू करते हैं, जो थोड़े बहुत बचे हैं वो हम ले लेंगे. Thank you and have an awesome day. I'll see you tomorrow, I guess. Okay.